this is my question. This is what it states. I have the Constitution. Forget what is in the paper. The Constitution is open for me. Whenever a new House is elected, this is 126(2). Article 126(2). Yes. Whenever a new House is elected, the President, by notice in the Gazette, shall appoint the place and date for the first sitting of the new House, comma, which shall not be more than 30 days after the election. I think that's where the crisis is coming. My understanding is that the first sitting shall not be more than 30 days. So the first sitting needs to take place before Friday. Am I reading it correctly or incorrectly?
No. Just read article, both of us, let us all read article 126(1). Yes. A sitting of either house may be held at any place within Kenya and may commence at any time that the house appoints. Fine. Whenever a new house, we're dealing with a new house, is elected, the president, by notice in the Gazette, shall appoint the place and date for the first sitting of the new house, which shall be not more than 30 days after the election. You know, this is where they have used double commas, what some people call parentheses. These are rule in interpretation. So how you have one textual, two structural, three history, and we have agreed on that before. So we have to be very careful when we read the commas. So I always caution my students, and many of them are now following, that be careful when you use commas in legal drafting. Because it can then be said, whenever a new, there's so many ways of reading 126(2). So many. And this can cause ambiguity, ambivalence, and equivocation. Whenever a new house is elected, comma, the president, by notice in the Gazette, comma, shall appoint the place of and date for the first sitting of the new house, comma, which shall be not more than 30 days. Commas are called parentheses. They are brackets.
Right.
And there is a way in which sometimes you can say what is bracketed is important but is relevant, but sometimes can be omitted. So there are so many ways. This is ambiguity. So you can say that whenever a new house is elected, the president, by notice in the Gazette, shall appoint shall appoint the place and for the first, so that the sitting, maybe the sitting is to be within 30 days, but that's an absurd one. I think the better correct interpretation is that the president's notice of calling, indicating the venue and the date is the one which is within 30 days. That
everything else after that,
that date can be appointed outside the 30 days, obviously. So that the deadline, if you read it literally, the deadline for giving the date and venue could be the Friday, but it's not that the sitting must be by Friday. That is a better interpretation.
Prof, are you reading the same?
And,
yes.
And in any case, there is no lacuna in Parliament. That was my third point. There is no crisis. Why? The main reason why there is no crisis. There is no crisis. Why? Under 1969 Constitution, there was the doctrine of dissolution of Parliament, which President Moi used to say that was his secret weapon. The date of dissolving Parliament and also the date of calling an election. And he called it around December, around Christmas there, so that most of the people who are perceived to be opposition have left their vote in Nairobi and have traveled back home. That was part of the...
So the import of this...
The import is that there's still a parliament. I hope Kenyans, listeners, viewers, we have a parliament. Should there be any need to have parliament seat, then we have a parliament. Which parliament is that? The one which is outgoing is still a parliament until a new one is sworn in. That's why Parliament was not dissolved, and Parliament is not dissolved. It's like executive is not dissolved. Judiciary is not dissolved as we go to elections. These days, I'm glad that Parliament is also not dissolved. So that at any given time, we have three arms of government. Even now, we have three arms of government. We have an incumbent president heading the executive. We have a judiciary headed by the CJ. We have a parliament. But then, of course, we are a parliament in transition, as it is.
So the import of this
so we are managing what is called transition or interregnum transition.
Inter what?
Interregnum.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the effective date is the gazettement.
Right.
Yes.
It has to happen within 30 days.
Yes, everything else follows after that. So I don't see where the crisis is.
No crisis, absolutely no crisis. Again, we're still waiting for the Supreme
Court.
Plus,
I mean, the article is a bit alarming at the risk of criticizing the author. But what is envisaged in the appointment of the speakers is a quick process. It's happened before. They tend to be very quick processes for good reason, so that Parliament can get on with its business.
And also Parliament is not, at the behest of the executive. I think that's part of the sort of, what Prof has been, talking about here, part of our history and bring on board, that we wanted the presidency or the president not to hold Parliament in essence and use it as a political weapon or secret weapon. So by dint of that, we sort of removed the timetable of Parliament from being controlled by the executive.
Absolutely.
Precisely.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what was that word again?
Interregnum.
Interregnum.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you spell
Nairobi English translation lacuna hiatus.
Okay. So, sorry?
The point is to avoid gaps. That there's always a government in office, whether or not they are transitioned, there's always a government in office.